So yesterday we talked about how to be a better character if your character has no flaws. But what if you play a character that's deeply flawed, or that has one central flaw? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. Hi everybody, I'm GR. This is Playerbase, which is a channel about ludology, the study of the dynamics of play. Now, today we're going to talk about the dynamics of how to play a character who is either deeply flawed or has a central flaw. And a really simple way to think about this type of character and the story progression for a character like this is, have you ever seen a Jackie Chan movie? They all have the same plot. You know, a young, talented character who is arrogant and undisciplined, relies on his strengths too heavily, and gets into all sorts of scrapes and humiliating, comical hijinks, which is a great, that's a whole 12 sessions right there. And then eventually, some dramatic tension, his father was killed or his family's held for ransom or something. And then he has to go and train real hard and, fight the assassin or the gang leaders or the HOA or whatever it is, in a Jackie Chan movie. And that's a really great structure for a long-term campaign or a short-term campaign or any campaign really even in the middle. Anything from 6 to 60 sessions you could do with a character like that. Because you have, whatever the character's good at, which on a character sheet's pretty obvious, and then you have whatever the character's bad at. And then you take what they're good at and what they're bad at, and the tension between those becomes the axis of that character's dynamic tension. And their flaw is the fact that they rely on what they're good at, and they very badly need what they're bad at. And so if you're writing a story or an adventure for a character like this, as the player or as the game master, or better yet, in conjunction with, as a discussion in a session 0 or multiple session 0s, you come to some understanding of where that would go. So let's say, to give a real practical example, let's say the character is really good at magic, so they have really high intelligence, but they have really low charisma. And the magic college that they're from is going through an academic upheaval, and all of the top faculty are getting ousted. And in order to save the faculty or to restructure the whole magic school, the person who you're playing has to get really good at convincing people of things and getting into interpersonal types of dynamics. That doesn't sound very fun at first, but you remember this is Dungeons and Dragons, so a lot of those interpersonal scrapes involve throwing fireball at each other. Or, making checks for persuasion and things like that. There's all kinds of ways that you could structure a thing like that. Or let's say necessarily, let's do a different one. Let's say that they're really good at, it's a paladin who's got really high charisma, but it's a terrible sword fighter. So they're really good at preaching and, going around converting people, but they actually can't do the part of their job that involves defending people or fighting monsters or whatever it is. And so they have to go and learn how to train that up. That's a lot easier to do, actually, than the other one. And it's a lot of fun because it involves, turning undead and sword fighting, which is, if you play D&D, usually the things that you're interested in. Now, that is enough to start with, and let me know in the comments if that works and if that sounds like it might work for you. I'm glad that this how to be a better player character thing is working out, and I want to hear more about how you're applying it. So, see you later. I'm GR, this is Playerbase.